2 years ago, I moved to Texas with my best friend and roommate, Sarah. We rented a small, cozy apartment on the outskirts of town. I've always had a fascination with dolls, not the plastic kind, but those beautiful porcelain antiques. To me, they weren't creepy, they were comforting. So, on my birthday, when Sarah handed me a delicately wrapped box, I was thrilled. Inside was the most stunning doll I had ever seen. Her skin was pale porcelain, smooth except for a faint hairline crack under her right eye. She had cascading auburn curls and the most hauntingly vivid blue eyes I'd ever seen. Eyes that glistened like glass but somehow felt alive. I was in awe. "I saw her in an antique shop and immediately thought of you," Sarah smiled. I named her Hazel. She took her place of honor on my nightstand, facing my bed. At night, her eyes reflected the soft light of my lamp. They sparkled, almost too much. In the beginning, everything felt fine. Hazel added charm to my room, and I found her presence oddly comforting. But that comfort began to sour within a week. It started small. My phone charger would be unplugged in the morning. A spoon I knew I had placed in the sink would be back on the counter. I blamed Sarah at first, thinking she was playing pranks, but she swore she wasn't. Then came the whispers. At night, just as I was drifting to sleep, I'd hear faint murmurs. Soft, female, like a lullaby sung through clenched teeth. I'd sit up, heart pounding, but the room would be silent except for Hazel's eyes, reflecting moonlight, staring directly at me. I told myself it was stress, a trick of the ears, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger, heavier. I couldn't shake it. It followed me from room to room, especially when Hazel was nearby. One night I awoke with a start, my arm stinging. When I turned on the light, there were 3 long, thin scratches running down my forearm. I checked the sheets, my nails, even under the bed. Nothing. But Hazel, who normally sat upright, had slumped forward, her face turned toward me, mouth slightly agape. The next morning, I found strange symbols drawn in soot on the mirror. Circles within circles, lines like thorns twisting into runes. I wiped them away quickly, refusing to acknowledge the fear spreading in my chest. That day, I went to see Father Thomas at the small Catholic church down the road, a kind, older man with tired eyes. When I explained what was happening, he grew silent. "Camila," he said gravely, "some objects carry spiritual residue, negative energy. They can become vessels, homes for things that should not walk this world." He offered to cleanse the apartment and banish whatever was attached to the doll, but I couldn't do it. I couldn't give up Hazel. She was a gift from Sarah, a symbol of our bond. So I politely declined. That night, the whispers returned, louder, clearer. I heard my name spoken with a breath that wasn't mine. "Kama, help me." I froze. My entire body went numb. Hazel sat in her usual place, but her head had turned slightly. I was sure of it. Her eyes gleamed unnaturally in the dark. Still, I didn't scream. I didn't run. Instead, I replied, "What do you want?" There was no answer, but something shifted. The air grew colder. My breath fogged up. Hazel's eyes seemed to soften for a moment. I told myself I was imagining it, but deep down I knew I wasn't. From then on, I began speaking to her. Every night, whispered conversations in the dark. I told her about my fears, my childhood, my dreams. I shared things I had never even told Sarah. In return, Hazel never moved, never answered again. But she listened. I could feel it, and I felt connected. But the deeper our connection grew, the darker the apartment became. The lights flickered constantly. Cold spots would appear in corners. Sarah started having nightmares, screaming in her sleep. Once, she woke up with a nosebleed and a bruise in the shape of a small handprint on her thigh. She asked me to move Hazel into the closet. I refused. We argued. Then one morning, I found Hazel sitting on Sarah's pillow. Neither of us had put her there. That day, Sarah packed a bag and left to stay with her sister. She never came back. Left alone, I sank deeper into Hazel's world. The symbols reappeared, carved into the wooden floor this time. The walls began bleeding, ever so faintly, around the baseboards. Not red, something darker, black, like oil. At night, I'd hear footsteps circling my bed. My reflection in the mirror would sometimes smile when I didn't. My fingernails turned brittle. My skin grew pale. I barely slept. And still, I couldn't part with her. Then came the night I truly lost control. I was lying in bed, eyes closed, when something crawled onto my chest. I opened my eyes, but saw nothing. I couldn't move. It was like being pinned down by invisible hands. My chest burned, my vision blurred. And then I heard Hazel again. But this time, her voice was not soft. It was desperate, screeching. "Kama, don't leave me!" I screamed. My body jerked free. I lunged for the door, but it slammed shut. The windows rattled. Hazel had fallen off the table and lay face up on the floor, smiling. Blood dripped from her porcelain lips. That was the moment I finally broke. The next day, I called Father Thomas. I begged him to come. This time, he brought help. 3 people in dark robes, carrying candles and vials of holy water. They set up quickly, chanting as they surrounded Hazel. The moment they began, the room changed. The temperature plummeted, the windows shattered, the floor shook. Hazel shrieked, a high-pitched sound that came from nowhere and everywhere. Her mouth opened wider than it should have, revealing a cavern of black. Father Thomas shouted ancient prayers. One of the robed women collapsed, blood pouring from her nose. The lights exploded, but still they continued. The chanting rose to a fever pitch and then silence. Hazel's body cracked, a line running straight down her face. Her eyes rolled back, and then stillness. She was gone. They sealed Hazel in a glass case, wrapped in silk with runes burned into the fabric. She was taken to a private museum that specialized in cursed objects, a place far from here, far from me. I watched them carry her away, and I wept, not from fear, but from something else, grief. Even now, months later, I can't explain it. Was Hazel truly evil, or was she just misunderstood? A spirit reaching out, confused, lonely, clinging to the only person who ever listened. My room is empty now. Peaceful, yes, but sterile. Cold, quiet. Too quiet. And sometimes, just as I'm falling asleep, I swear I hear it again. A whisper. "Kama." And I wonder, did I really save myself, or did I abandon her? A few years back, when I was still a teenager, my best friend Daniel and I were just a couple of broke high schoolers trying to make ends meet. So when we heard old Mr. Whitaker was looking for help cleaning out his massive estate just outside of town, we figured, why not? He was an odd figure. When we met him, he wore thick gloves, even in the summer heat, and spoke in clipped, almost rehearsed sentences. Still, he offered us $100 each per week, cash, just to dust, sweep, and clean out the house room by rooms. Seemed like a dream job. It wasn't. The house. From the outside, the house looked like something out of a forgotten century. Towering and covered in tangled ivy, its windows dark and lifeless. The front gate groaned like an animal in pain every time we pushed it open. The garden was wild, overgrown, and oddly symmetrical, as if it had once been beautiful and someone had tried and failed to keep it from dying. The first time we stepped inside, something felt wrong. The air was thick, stale. It didn't smell like dust, more like old fabric, rotting wood, and something sickly sweet beneath it all, like flowers left too long in a vase. I remember Daniel paused in the doorway. "Dude, this place gives me the creeps." I laughed it off. "Yeah, but it pays." We got to work. Sweeping floors, clearing cobwebs, wiping grime off walls that hadn't seen sunlight in years. The silence of the house was oppressive. Even when we spoke, our voices sounded muted, swallowed up by the vast, decaying walls. The doll. On our third day, while cleaning what looked like an old parlor room, I spotted it. Sitting alone on a high wooden shelf was a porcelain doll. It was no bigger than a toddler, dressed in a tattered red velvet dress, its face cracked along one cheek. One of its glass eyes was cloudy, while the other was crystal clear and blue. That single eye seemed to fixate on me the moment I entered the room. I froze. "Hey, Daniel, you see this?" He walked over, squinted, and recoiled slightly. "That's the creepiest thing I've ever seen." "I hate dolls," I muttered. "Why would someone keep that thing?" We left it where it was, not wanting to touch it. But after that day, things started changing. The whispers and shadows. The first sign was the whispers. They started soft, just at the edge of hearing. At first, I thought they were drafts through the old vents. But no, these whispers had rhythm, words. They sounded like a child singing a lullaby in a language I didn't understand. Daniel heard them too. One afternoon, while mopping the hallway outside the parlor, he suddenly dropped the mop and turned pale. "What?" I asked. He stared into the shadows near the stairwell. "Something," just laughed. I listened. "Nothing. You're messing with me," I said. But then I heard it too, a low, breathy giggle that echoed through the walls, and the air turned cold. I mean winter cold. Our breath began to mist in front of our faces. The next day, Daniel showed me scratches on his back. 3 long, thin marks like something had clawed him while he was scrubbing the bathroom upstairs. The moving doll. It got worse. The doll. It started to move. At first, we thought we were imagining things, but on multiple occasions we found it in different parts of the house, even though neither of us had touched it. One morning, it was sitting in a rocking chair in the upstairs hallway. The next on the piano bench in the music room. Once it was perched at the very top of the staircase, facing downward as if watching us. I tried to laugh it off, tried to rationalize it. "Maybe Mr. Whitaker's messing with us," I suggested. "He's old, maybe he thinks it's funny." Daniel shook his head. "He hasn't even been here since the first day. You've seen how he never enters the house." And it was true. Every day he'd unlock the gate, let us in, then vanish. The night it came alive. We should have quit. We talked about quitting, but curiosity is a stupid drug and we were hooked. On the 7th day, something happened that neither of us could explain or forget. We were finishing up late. The sky had turned orange outside. Daniel was in the kitchen and I was upstairs, collecting tools. As I turned the corner into the parlor, I stopped dead. The doll was there, standing, not sitting, standing on the windowsill, arms stretched out, head tilted, and it turned to look at me. I screamed. Daniel came running, and when he saw it, he screamed too. And then the lights flickered, the walls groaned, the temperature dropped instantly. And from behind us, we heard footsteps, slow, dragging steps, like bare feet across wooden floors. We turned. Nothing. Then came the voice. A child's voice, soft and broken. "You shouldn't be here. Mr. Whitaker's return." We ran, or tried to, but the front door slammed shut and wouldn't budge. Daniel was banging on it when Mr. Whitaker finally burst in through the back, his face pale, eyes wide. He was carrying a small wooden box and a black vial of liquid. "Where is it?" he hissed. "Where's the doll?" We pointed. It was now seated calmly in the middle of the room, its eyes dark and hollow. Mr. Whitaker stepped forward, uncorked the vial, and poured the thick black liquid over the doll's face. He chanted in a language I'd never heard, harsh, guttural, ancient. And in the shadows of my room, just for a second, I see something small, something wearing red velvet, watching.
Vanity is harmless until it isn't. What would you give to be beautiful forever? What would you take? Laura was a reclusive makeup artist, known for strange creations no one had ever seen on her face. One day, at a flea market far outside the city, she found an antique vanity set. Mirror, comb, brush, and a skin-colored leather box. The seller warned, "It doesn't show your reflection, only your desire." Laura, obsessed with beauty she believed she didn't have, bought anyway. That night, she sat before the mirror. But it didn't show her, just a blurry, flawless version of herself. Pale skin, full lips, bone structure like a porcelain. In the box, she found a needle and black thread, and a folded piece of paper that read, "So what you want into who you are." Beneath the paper was a piece of dried, cracked skin. She laughed it off, until the next morning, her skin started peeling in sheets, revealing smooth, unfamiliar flesh underneath. Her cheekbones sharpened, her lips swelled. Terrified, but fascinated, she kept going. Each night, she'd use the black thread to stitch loose skin tighter. Some nights, she found extra skin waiting inside the box. She never put it there. Her voice deepened, her smile stiffened, her fingers cracked from constant stitching. Her friends stopped calling. She never left the house. One night, her reflection looked back and blinked out of sync. Then it whispered, "You become someone else. Now, let them become you." The next morning, a neighbor entered after noticing the smell. Laura was gone. Only the mirror remained, and a pile of human skin stitched into a perfect mask, smiling gently on the vanity table. The police called it suicide, but the mirror was taken in as evidence. Weeks later, one of the officers began changing. His wife said, "You look younger, but something in your eyes isn't yours." The mirror has since gone missing, but every so often, online forums report a box made of flesh-colored leather, found at forgotten antique shops, and always accompanied by black thread. Some houses are built from wood, brick, or concrete. Others are built from memories and promises made in blood. This one had 7 rooms, but on the night she turned 28, an 8th appeared. Sarah lived in a Victorian townhouse passed down from her grandmother. Creaky, ancient, but full of character. There were 7 rooms, 1 bedroom, 1 bath, 1 kitchen, 1 attic, 1 basement, 1 sitting room, and 1 locked storage room she was told never to open. On the night of her 28th birthday, Sarah woke up to find a new hallway at the back of the house. At the end of it, a door she had never seen before. It had no handle, only a dark knothole in the center, faintly pulsing like a heartbeat. Searching the attic, Sarah found a hidden box of her grandmother's belongings. Inside was a leather-bound journal written in looping cursive. Its pages were filled with runes, moon phases, diagrams of the house, overlaid with something that wasn't there. The final pages were smeared in dry blood. One sentence repeated, "Do not open the 8th room until it calls you by name." That night, the door whispered, "Sarah," the door opened. Behind the door, a spiral staircase leading downward, deeper than the house should allow. She descended for what felt like hours. The air grew warm, then hot, then wet. The walls pulsed as if they were breathing. Voices began to hum in unison, a low, harmonic chant from no clear direction. At the bottom, she found a perfect replica of her living room, but it was covered in soot and ash. In the center sat a mirror, and in the mirror, not her, but someone wearing her face, smiling too wide. The reflection spoke. "We were promised your skin. You are the last of your blood." Suddenly, invisible hands dragged Sarah into a circle of symbols. Her body began to stretch, limbs pulled in 7 directions. A deep hum shook the room. 7 doors appeared around her. Each door creaked open. Inside, twisted versions of Sarah, broken, altered, screaming. They crawled toward her. She screamed back, but the reflection stepped out of the mirror. It crawled forward, slow, deliberate, and tore its own face off, then wore hers. Sarah's body went limp. Her mind sank beneath the surface. The next morning, neighbors saw Sarah outside, waving politely. She seemed cheerful, calm, but at night, they saw her again. 2 of her, one walking through the hall, the other inside the mirror, watching. The 8th room had vanished again, but when guests visited, they sometimes heard footsteps behind a wall. in a room that didn't exist. Some claim they heard their own names whispered. Eventually, the house was sold. The new owners never found anything unusual until one night, their daughter woke them, crying. The lady with the same face as Mommy said, "I'm the next one." When they asked where she saw the woman, she pointed down the hallway to a door with no handle. It wasn't there yesterday, but tonight it's waiting. A cursed forest looms where moonlight struggles through gnarled branches, hiding a village lost to time. Decaying houses with shattered windows stare like empty skulls. Elliot, a young artist craving inspiration, steps into the cursed woods. His fingers tremble, clutching the sketchbook as twisted branches loom around him. With every step, his boots crush dead leaves as the forest reaches toward him, hungry for his fear. The forest feels alive, its twisted trees casting shapes that watch him move. Under a twisted tree, Elliot sketches a shadowy figure, unaware something unseen guides his hand. The lines on the page pulse unnaturally, glowing red as the shadowy figure begins to take shape. Darkness swallows the forest, and the air grows thick with an unnatural silence. Elliot's lantern flickers. Unseen eyes gleam from the underbrush, tracking his every movement. He spins, heart pounding, but only darkness greets him, no sound, just dread. The figure in his drawing grows clearer, a faceless silhouette with glowing, crimson eyes. The forest awakens, branches curling like skeletal fingers, trapping Elliot. A chilling whisper surrounds him. "Draw, complete me." Urging his pencil onward, shadows twist across the ground, mimicking the drawing's form, as whispers echo faintly. Fear grips Elliot, but his hand moves against his will, finishing the monstrous figure. The paper glows, and the shadow slithers out, merging with the forest's darkness. The shadow beneath the marsh towers over Elliot, its red eyes burning with malice. The entity's form shifts, mimicking Elliot's drawing, dripping with black ooze. The sketchbook lands in mud, pages fluttering briefly, claws loom nearby. Its voice rumbles, "You gave me life." As Elliot scrambles to escape, the forest turns hostile, roots tripping him, vines coiling like serpents around his ankles. His breath clouds in the cold air, but the shadow's eyes pierce through the fog. It melts into the ground, reappearing closer, flickering like a broken film reel. Elliot realizes the drawing is the key, the tether binding the entity to this world. With a cry, he rips the sketch apart, scattering fragments like ash in the wind. The entity shrieks in agony, but doesn't vanish. The pieces dissolve into the night. But as it fades, the shadow's claw latches onto Elliot, pulling him toward the marsh. Elliot digs his fingers into the mud, but the force drags him down into the dark waters. The water closes over him, leaving only ripples and his sketchbook behind. Sunlight pierces the canopy, casting a fragile glow over the now silent forest. But unease lingers. The sketchbook rests open, its pages blank, as if the forest erased Elliot's final work. The water stirs subtly, hinting that something still lurks beneath, waiting to reclaim what was lost. The abandoned houses lean closer, guarding the forest's darkest secret. The crow caws sharply, its eyes glinting red before it flies away. The sketchbook pages flutter, stopping on a blank sheet, darkening with faint, moving lines. A grotesque visage emerges, twisting into a grin that wasn't drawn by Elliot. A low, guttural laugh echoes from the marsh, mocking the dawn's light, filling the air with dread. The sketchbook snaps shut on its own, trembling slightly, sealing the entity within. A curious girl from the village finds the book and opens it cautiously, unaware of the danger inside. The shadowy face pulses, its eyes locking onto hers, whispering softly. She stumbles back, fear overtaking her, as the forest closes in around her. The page is blank once more, but the faint scratch of a pencil sounds, as if the drawing itself is coming to life. Shadows lengthen, the air heavy with the same dread Elliot felt as the curse resurfaces. The girl runs through the village, the trees leaning inward, forming a cage-like tunnel trapping her. She finds no one, doors locked, windows boarded up. Panicked, the girl runs into an abandoned house, desperately barricading the door. Panting, she pushes the door with all her might, trying to hold something back. The shadow outside the door begins to move, as if charging toward the house. She hears a strange noise behind her and turns around, face filled with fear. She runs into a room, slams the door shut, pressing her back against the wall. She stares at the door, breathing heavily, as eerie noises echo from beyond. The door bursts open suddenly. Darkness floods in with overwhelming fear. She stumbles back, screaming in terror as the darkness surrounds her. The shadow reaches for her, preparing to drag her into the night. The shadow engulfs her, and the light fades, leaving only darkness. The marsh ripples gently, and the dark entity's laughter fills the air. The sketchbook opens, blank pages begin to move, as if an invisible force is drawing. The marsh bubbles ominously again, darkness taking over, a strong wind blowing. The sketchbook slams shut abruptly, eerie laughter echoing from the marsh.
Not all ghosts are the result of ancient curses or unexplainable tragedies. Some linger because of the pain they suffered in life. This story takes us to the island of Puerto Rico, where a historic hotel has been the site of strange occurrences for years. A place where the line between the living and the dead is far too thin, and some guests have never left. The Hotel de San Juan, located in the heart of Old San Juan, is one of the oldest hotels on the island, having opened its doors in the early 20th century. It's a place with rich history, offering stunning views of the bay and the cobblestone streets of the city. Tourists from all over the world come to experience its old-world charm, its colonial architecture, and its reputation for being one of the finest hotels in the area. But behind the beauty and charm, there's a story that many locals know but rarely speak of. It's a place that has seen its share of tragedy, where the echoes of the past still seem to linger in the hallways, and where some guests claim to feel an unsettling presence, especially in the older parts of the hotel. In the early 2000s, a man named Thomas checked into the Hotel de San Juan. He had come to Puerto Rico for a business trip, and as a frequent traveler, he'd stayed in many hotels across the world. But there was something about this one that felt different from the moment he stepped inside. The lobby was quiet, with only a few other guests scattered around, and the air had a strange heaviness to it. It wasn't the usual warm, tropical air that he was used to in Puerto Rico. It was colder, almost like a chill running through the walls. Thomas checked in and was led to his room on the 3rd floor. As the elevator doors opened, he felt a sudden drop in temperature, and the hairs on the back of his neck stood up. The hallway was dimly lit, the old wallpaper peeling at the edges, and a faint smell of mildew hung in the air. He thought little of it, chalking it up to the hotel's age. When he entered his room, he noticed that the lights flickered once, but then remained on. The bed was large, with a white canopy, and the windows opened to a beautiful view of the city. He felt a sense of relief and decided to unwind with a drink. As he sat on the bed, he heard it, a soft, faint sound. It was like a whisper, a voice distant and unintelligible. At first, he thought it was the wind or someone talking in the hallway. But as the seconds passed, the whispers grew louder, more distinct. It sounded like someone was speaking directly into his ear, but there was no one there. Thomas stood up, heart racing, and opened the door. The hallway was empty. No one was there. He looked around, trying to shake off the uneasy feeling that had settled over him. He returned to his room, but when he closed the door behind him, he saw something that made his blood run cold. The reflection in the mirror wasn't his. Instead, he saw the image of a woman, dressed in a long white gown, her face obscured by dark, unkempt hair. She was standing behind him in the reflection, but when he turned around, the room was empty. He rushed to the door, checked the hallway again, but no one was there. Just a cold, unsettling silence. He sat back down on the bed, shaking now. The whispers returned, louder than before, coming from the corner of the room. The words were still unclear, but the tone was unmistakable. There was a sense of urgency in the voice, like it was trying to tell him something important, something he wasn't supposed to know. By the time the sun had set, Thomas had had enough. He packed his things and decided to leave. But as he made his way toward the elevator, he saw something that stopped him in his tracks. The woman from the mirror. She was standing at the far end of the hallway, staring at him. He couldn't move, paralyzed by fear. Her face was pale, her eyes black holes of emptiness. She stepped forward slowly, and as she did, the lights flickered and the temperature dropped even further. Thomas backed away toward the elevator, but the woman kept coming. Her movements were slow, deliberate, and each step echoed in the empty hallway. Just as she reached him, the elevator doors opened. Thomas didn't hesitate. He rushed inside and hit the button to close the doors. As the doors slid shut, he saw her one last time, her hand reaching out toward him, her mouth opening in a silent scream. Thomas checked out of the hotel that night, too terrified to stay another minute. But the experience stayed with him. After returning home, he couldn't shake the image of the woman from the hotel. He searched for any history about the hotel, trying to find out who she might have been. What he found made his blood run cold. The woman was Eleanor, a guest who had checked into the hotel many years ago in the early 1900s. According to the records, she had been found dead in her room under mysterious circumstances. It was said that she had been a bride-to-be, but her fiancé had vanished the night before their wedding, and she was never seen again. She had died in the hotel alone, and the case was never solved. But the most chilling part? Eleanor had stayed in room 307, the same room where Thomas had been. And according to the hotel's old guest log, she had checked in with a man who had never signed out. It was said that the man left in the middle of the night, and no one ever heard from him again. The whispers, the chilling presence, the reflection in the mirror, all of it was Eleanor trying to tell Thomas the truth. She was still waiting for her fiancé to return. To this day, guests who stay in room 307 report strange occurrences. The whispers, the cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. The woman in the mirror. Eleanor's story is far from over, and some souls can never leave the places they once loved. If you ever find yourself at the Hotel de San Juan, beware of room 307, because Eleanor's waiting for someone to listen. I was driving cross-country last fall, trying to escape a lot of things. A breakup, mostly. I didn't have a destination, just a full tank and a head full of noise. By the third day, I was in the middle of nowhere. Some forgotten stretch of back road cutting through endless woods. That's when my GPS went blank. No signal, just a blinking blue dot floating in gray. I should have turned around, but then I saw a sign. Welcome to Graywick. Population, 142. The town didn't exist on any map. Not Google, not paper, but there it was. Stone buildings, narrow streets, a diner, a gas station with analog pumps. It looked stuck in time, like the 1950s never ended. And everyone I saw stared at me, not angry, not welcoming, just watching. I stopped at the diner for coffee. The woman behind the counter never asked what I wanted, just poured it. Said, "You won't be able to leave tonight. Roads don't like the dark." I asked what that meant. She just smiled and handed me a motel key. I never told her I needed a room. The motel was old but clean. Too clean. No other cars in the lot. No sound anywhere, not even insects outside. That night, I tried to drive out. The road that led me in wasn't there anymore. Just trees. Endless, thick trees. I started hearing whispers through the walls of the motel. Not words, just movement, breathing. At 3:13 a.m., my doorknob turned. Slowly. No knock. No footsteps outside. Just the click of the handle turning. And then it stopped. The next morning, I ran to the gas station. The clerk said, "You're not the first, but you seem quieter than the others." When I asked what he meant, he shrugged. Some people screamed for days, then handed me a new map. A hand-drawn one. One road. One dot. Graywick. No roads out. By noon, I realized something was wrong with the people. They never blinked. Not once. They smiled, they talked, they walked. But their eyes were always open. Dry. Empty. I tried calling someone. No signal. Tried walking through the forest. Every path curved back into town. By the fourth day, I gave up trying. I checked the motel guest book again. There were names. Hundreds of them. Some scratched out. Some marked quiet. Next to my name, someone had written, "Still watching." That night, I stared at myself in the mirror. I looked fine, normal. Except, I hadn't blinked all day. Not once. The RMS Queen Mary was one of the most magnificent ships of the 20th century, a floating palace that carried the rich and famous across the Atlantic. But when the world was at war, it was transformed into a military transport vessel, nicknamed the Gray Ghost. After the war, it was retired and turned into a hotel and museum docked in Long Beach, California. Since then, guests and staff alike have reported strange occurrences: flickering lights, cold spots, and the sound of footsteps when no one is around. But it wasn't just the whispers of the supernatural that surrounded the Queen Mary. The ship's history was marred by tragedy. In its years of service, hundreds of people died aboard the ship, some from accidents, others from illness, and some from tragic events that remain shrouded in mystery. This is the story of one such incident, a ghostly encounter that continues to haunt those who dare to stay aboard the Queen Mary. It was in 1966 when Michael, a young man working on board the ship as part of the maintenance crew, had his first eerie experience. He had always heard stories about the ship being haunted, but dismissed them as superstitions. After all, he was working in the engine room, far from the haunted areas of the ship. One night, as he was finishing up his shift in the bowels of the ship, he noticed something strange. A cold breeze, an unnatural chill, swept through the otherwise stuffy engine room. He looked around, his eyes scanning the machinery that hummed quietly in the background. He could have sworn he saw a figure out of the corner of his eye, a shadow moving quickly across the room. But when he turned to look, there was nothing there. Shaking it off, he continued his work. But then he heard it. Footsteps, heavy footsteps, walking slowly behind him. His heart raced as he turned around, but again, the room was empty. He wasn't alone. He couldn't see them, but he could feel them. And the footsteps, they weren't stopping. Michael rushed to finish his work, trying to ignore the creeping sense of dread that was settling in his chest. The next night, Michael returned, this time determined to prove to himself that it was just his imagination. But when he entered the engine room, the temperature had dropped again. The lights flickered ominously, casting long shadows on the walls. This time, he wasn't alone. He could feel it, a presence in the room with him, something watching him from the darkness. As he worked, the sound of someone breathing behind him was unmistakable, just over his shoulder, hot and heavy. He turned around, but there was no one there. Panic began to set in as the pressure in the room seemed to build. His flashlight flickered and went out. In the pitch dark, Michael stood frozen, trying to gather his bearings. Then, out of nowhere, the loud sound of clanging metal echoed through the room. It was as if someone had slammed a heavy metal door, but Michael was certain he was alone. He felt an icy hand brush against his neck. His body tensed, and without thinking, he bolted out of the engine room, his heart pounding in his chest. The strange occurrences didn't stop for Michael. His encounters became more frequent, and he wasn't the only one. Other crew members started reporting similar experiences. Strange noises, cold spots, the sound of footsteps, and even sightings of shadowy figures in hallways. It wasn't long before rumors started circulating about a woman's ghost haunting the ship. The legend of the Lady in White was born, an apparition seen by multiple crew members who had worked late hours, usually near the ship's engine room. But the truth of who this ghost was remained a mystery. Some said she was a passenger who had died aboard the ship during a voyage, while others speculated that she was a woman who had tragically taken her life on board. One night, Michael could take no more. He decided to confront the mystery head-on. He had heard about an old passage on the ship, an area off-limits to the crew. It was known as the Haunted Corridor, where the faint sound of a woman's crying had been heard late at night. Michael wanted to find out if the rumors were true. With his flashlight in hand, Michael ventured down the dark hallway, his footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The ship creaked and groaned as if it were alive, but the silence was deafening. He passed the first few rooms and noticed a faint, melodic sound in the distance. It sounded like a lullaby played on an old piano. The music was faint, but it was unmistakable. As he walked further down the corridor, the sound grew louder and his heart began to race. The air was thick, as if the walls themselves were closing in. At the end of the hall, Michael could see it, a faint glow coming from a room. His hands trembled as he approached the door. When he opened it, the light flickered, and he saw her. A woman in a white dress, sitting on an old wooden rocking chair, her back turned to him. Her hair was long and dark, cascading down her back, but her face was hidden. The lullaby continued to play, even though there was no piano in sight. Terrified, Michael stepped closer. "Excuse me, are you okay?" he asked, his voice shaking. The woman's head slowly turned, revealing a hollow, lifeless face. Her eyes were completely black, as if her soul had been swallowed by the darkness. Before Michael could react, the door slammed shut behind him. He was trapped. The rocking chair continued to move, faster now, and the woman's whispering voice filled the room. "You shouldn't have come here. You should leave." The temperature in the room dropped so drastically that Michael could see it. The woman's voice was chilling, like ice scraping across metal. She rose from the chair, her movements jerky, unnatural. Michael backed away toward the door, but it wouldn't open. His heart was pounding in his chest as he looked at the woman, who now stood inches away from him. Her mouth opened wide, but instead of a scream, a gust of wind swept through the room, knocking him to the ground. In that moment, Michael felt a sharp pain in his chest, like something was gripping his heart, squeezing the life out of him. His vision blurred as he gasped for air. And just as suddenly as the pressure had appeared, it was gone. The door to the room burst open, and Michael scrambled to his feet, running down the hallway as fast as he could. When he finally made it back to the main deck, the ship was silent once again. The woman, the lullaby, the whispers, they were gone. But Michael never spoke about what happened. He couldn't. He left the ship that night and never returned. The Queen Mary continued to sit in the harbor, a place where some say the dead never leave, waiting for their next visitor to answer their call. Some say that the woman in white is still aboard the ship, waiting for someone to listen. And others say she's still looking for the one person who can help her escape the curse. If you ever visit the Queen Mary, be careful where you walk, because some ghosts don't want to be found until you find them.
My daughter Clara was always unlike the other children her age. She was quiet, withdrawn, and had little interest in making friends. Whenever she brought someone home, they rarely returned a second time. Before long, Clara stopped being invited to anyone else's house altogether. She didn't care for television, the radio, or the pastimes that kept other kids busy. Books were the only thing she wanted. I regret to say I was too preoccupied to notice what she was actually reading. If only I had. When she entered her teenage years, Clara changed even more. She seemed detached from everything around her, uninterested in the world. And where she once devoured book after book, now she clung to just one, an old leather-bound Bible. At the time, I considered it a blessing. While my friends fretted about their daughters running wild or falling into trouble, I felt proud that mine was quiet, obedient, and devout. I believed those were the good days, before everything unraveled. It began one night when I couldn't sleep. As I rolled over, I noticed Clara in the doorway of my room. The lights were off, but I could clearly see her silhouette. She didn't move, didn't speak, just stood there. I called her name softly, then louder, but she gave no sign of hearing me. Uneasy, I got out of bed, switched on the light, and told her it was late and she needed to return to her room. Convinced she had been sleepwalking, I thought little of it. But it didn't stop. Night after night, I would open my eyes to find her there again, staring silently from the doorway. Not once did I see her approach. It was as if she simply appeared. At first, I roused myself each time to guide her back to bed. But after a week, I stopped. It unnerved me, yes, but I was tired and let her remain. I told myself it was harmless, though deep down,
I knew it was anything but. Then came the night when everything shifted. I remember tossing in my sleep, trying to find comfort. I assumed Clara was in the doorway as usual, but when I sat up, the space was empty, only the door hung wide open. A chill crept over me as I walked the dark hallway to her room. What I found froze me in place. Clara was suspended in the air, 4 feet above her bed. A moment later, she drifted upward until she pressed against the ceiling, crawling across it as though gravity itself had turned against her. I ran. I dialed the church in desperation, calling until the priest finally answered. He insisted I bring Clara at once. By the time I reached her, she had fallen from the ceiling. But now she was vacant, an empty shell. She would not respond, not even when shaken. I carried her into the car, drove her to the church, and placed her in their care. The priests sprinkled holy water, and for a fleeting moment, Clara stirred. They placed her in the confessional, hoping to reach her. What she admitted there made my blood run cold. She confessed she had been practicing rituals, dark invocations drawn from the very book I thought was a Bible. Its cover had been a disguise. Inside, the words belonged not to God, but to Satan. Moments later, she slipped back into that lifeless state, and the priest confirmed what I dreaded most. My daughter was possessed. The exorcism began immediately. What followed was the most harrowing ordeal of my life. Clara thrashed and screamed with inhuman strength, her voice shifting between her own and something guttural, mocking. "The power of Christ compels you. Release this innocent soul," cried the priest. "I'll crush your throat and split your skull," the demon answered through her lips. "Clara, stop," I screamed. "Your daughter is already burning in hell," the voice hissed. The struggle raged for hours. Chairs splintered. Holy men were thrown to the ground, yet they persisted. At last, the demon relented, driven out by sheer force of prayer and will. Clara fell limp, free at last. The aftermath. But victory came at too great a price. Clara's body was ruined from the torment. Her heart, weakened by what she endured, could not hold out. Not long after her deliverance, she died. Every day since, I've carried the same guilt, that I did not pay attention sooner, that I did not take the strange book from her hands, that I let her stand in my doorway night after night. If only I had acted earlier, perhaps she would still be alive. This tale mirrors the real case of Clara Germana Selle, a young South African girl said to have been possessed in 1906. Accounts tell she spoke languages she had never learned, revealed secrets of strangers, hurled nuns aside with unnatural strength, and levitated several feet into the air. Patty. Witnesses described her screams as animalistic, her hatred of holy objects absolute. 2 priests, Reverend Mansuetti and Reverend Erasmus, performed her exorcism, which lasted for 2 full days. At its end, the demon was expelled, and the girl was delivered. Whether history or legend, such stories endure as chilling reminders of how easily darkness can wear a familiar face. A deserted country road winds through dense fog. Tall trees loom overhead. A single car headlights cut through the darkness. Inside the car, Jason Harper driving and Emily Harper sitting in the passenger seat. "Jason, are you sure this is the right place?" The realtor said it's just down this road. The house is supposed to be abandoned for years, perfect for renovations. The car rounds a bend and suddenly the silhouette of an old decaying mansion emerges from the fog. Its windows are dark, some broken vines crawling up the walls. Jason parks the car. They get out. The wind picks up, carrying a faint, whispering voice. Emily shivers. The front door groans as Jason pushes it open. The air inside is cold, stale, and smells faintly of decay. They walk in. Their footsteps echo in the empty halls. Dust swirls around them in the moonlight. A grand staircase leads up to the second floor, its banister warped and rotting. Suddenly, a faint child's laugh echoes from upstairs. Emily freezes. Did you hear that? Emily enchta ging. Probably a raccoon or something. They continue, exploring. In the dining room, a long table is covered in cobwebs. Chairs are overturned. A silver candelabra lies on the floor, dented. Jason picks it up and shakes it gently. Then the candelabra flies from his hands across the room, smashing into the wall. Jason and Emily stumble back, horrified. A loud creaking sound comes from the staircase. Both look up. A dark shadow moves across the top landing. It disappears. Emily gasps. Dort. Emily unwraps a blanket, trying to warm herself. A sudden knock comes from the window. Both freeze. Who's there? Who's there? Emily startled. Jason slowly approaches the window. Nothing is outside. He sighs in relief. The knock comes again, louder this time. A faint, distorted child's voice whispers, "Go away." Emily clutches Jason's arm. The temperature in the room drops dramatically. Their breath becomes visible. Suddenly, the lights from their flashlights flicker. Shadows stretch unnaturally along the walls. A cold, unseen hand brushes Emily's shoulder. She screams. Jason grabs a nearby chair, swinging it wildly, but hits nothing. The room is empty, yet the presence is undeniable. A low, guttural whisper fills the room. "You shouldn't have come." Jason and Emily huddle together, terrified as the first real night of horror begins in Willow Creek. Jason and Emily are huddled on the floor, clutching each other. The cold in the room is unbearable. Their breaths come in short gasps. Shadows twist unnaturally across the walls. Jason grabs his phone, trying to call for help. No signal. He tries again. Still nothing. A soft, dragging sound comes from the hallway outside the room. Something is moving. A door at the end of the hallway creaks open slowly on its own. Emily hides her face in Jason's chest. The room grows darker, as if a shadow is spreading. A low, almost human-like moan echoes from the corridor. "I want to leave. I want to go home," Emily crying softly. Jason slowly stands, trying to look brave. He grabs a candle from a dresser and lights it. The flame flickers violently, then steadies. He steps into the hallway. The floorboards groan under his weight. Cold wind brushes past him. He shines the candle down the hall. A small, pale hand suddenly reaches out from under the staircase, grabbing at him. Jason stumbles back, screaming. "Jason!" Emily screaming. The hand disappears as quickly as it appeared. Silence falls. But now, faint whispers are all around them, echoing from the walls and ceiling. whispers overlapping. Leave. Now. Go. The next morning, the rain has stopped, leaving a damp, foggy landscape outside. Jason and Emily are examining the house by daylight, the horrors of the night before fresh in their minds. They find a small library, dusty and full of cobwebs. Emily opens a large book, flipping through pages of old newspaper clippings. Jason, look at this. Clippings show a series of mysterious deaths and disappearances in the mansion, all involving children. One article catches their attention. A woman named Madeline Thorne was accused of witchcraft and killed on the property in the 1800s. A sudden loud bang upstairs makes them both jump. A chair slides across the floor on its own. The air grows icy again. Jason grabs Emily's hand. We need help. Someone who understands this. Jason finds an old working landline in the study room. He dials frantically. The line clicks. Then a calm, confident voice answers. This is Dr. Marcus Vale. How may I help you? My name is Jason Harper. We moved into a mansion in Willow Creek. Something's wrong. There's a spirit here. It attacked us last night. Take a deep breath. Describe the events from the beginning. Jason recounts everything. The whispers, the shadows, the hand under the stairs, the dragging sounds, and the chilling presence. Emily adds the newspaper clippings about Madeline Thorne. Jason hangs up, glancing at Emily, both knowing that tonight will be even worse than before. The rain has returned, light at first, then heavier. Fog swirls across the lawn. Jason and Emily stand at the edge of the driveway, nervously awaiting Dr. Marcus Vale and his team. A sleek black SUV appears through the mist. Three figures step out. Dr. Marcus Vale, a calm, experienced paranormal investigator. Sister Helena, a medium with deep spiritual insight. And Liam, a tech specialist with a knack for detecting anomalies. Are you ready? Once we enter, there's no turning back until we've dealt with her. I don't know if I can. Emily trembling. They all enter the mansion. The doors creak ominously, echoing through the dark hallways. The team sets up equipment, EVP recorders, EMF detectors, cameras, and candles. Dr. Vale explains the plan. Madeline Thorne is strong. She feeds off fear. She reacts to sudden movements, loud sounds, and non-vegetarian food. Her anger stems from betrayal and her violent death. Tonight, we'll attempt to communicate, then bind her spirit. Jason and Emily sit in the corner, holding each other. A faint whisper floats through the room, too soft to catch clearly. A sudden slamming sound upstairs causes Liam to drop his camera. Dr. Vale moves toward the staircase. He ascends, candle in hand. The shadows seem to stretch along the walls, forming twisted shapes. A chilling, high-pitched laugh echoes down the staircase. Dr. Vale carefully approaches a closed door at the end of the hallway. The temperature drops sharply. His breath becomes visible. Madeline Thorne, we are here to help you move on. The door slams open violently on its own. A shadowy figure appears. A pale woman in a tattered dress, her eyes black voids. Long black hair obscures most of her face. She floats a few inches above the floor, moving unnaturally. Madeline Thorne, Your anger belongs to the past. You will not harm them. The ghost screams, a high-pitched wail that shakes the walls. Furniture slides across the floor. Candles extinguish themselves one by one. Liam shouts, trying to record everything. Sister Helena steps forward, holding a small pendant glowing faintly. By the light of the old, by the power of the unseen, I call you to listen. The ghost pauses, tilts her head. A whisper emerges, almost human. Why did they betray me? Ghost whispering. Suddenly, a loud crash is heard from downstairs. Jason and Emily run toward the sound. They see furniture thrown across the room. A shadow moves across the ceiling, then lands in front of them. It's Madeline Thorne, Emily screaming. The ghost lunges at Jason. He is thrown across the room. Emily tries to grab him, but the ghost grabs her too. Both are lifted off the ground by an invisible force. Dr. Vale runs to the center of the room, holding a small silver cross and chanting an incantation. The ghost lets out a chilling scream. Leave or die, ghost screaming. Jason manages to grab a piece of broken furniture, swinging it at the ghost. It passes through her like smoke, but slows her down. Dr. Val's shouting grows louder. Sister Helena joins in, the pendant glowing brighter. The ghost starts to dissipate slowly, her wail fading. The air warms. The objects stop moving. Jason and Emily collapse to the floor, exhausted but alive. Dr. Vale serious to Emily and Jason. This is only the beginning. Spirits like Madeline Thorne, they are powerful. But tonight, she has been weakened. The camera lingers on the shadowy corners of the room, hinting that she may not be gone entirely. Jason and Emily sit as Sister Helena performs a vision ritual. Candles circle them. Incense smoke curls around their faces. Suddenly, the room shifts. The walls seem to bleed. Her fury is born of betrayal, starvation, and murder. They left me. They left me. Ghost whispering. Objects fly. Lights flicker. Shadows dart across hallways. Jason and Emily are trapped in a room, terrified. She's feeding off your fear. Stay calm. Dr. Vale shouting. Jason sees ghostly children in the corner, echoes of Madeline's lost family. One reaches toward him, whispering, "Join us." He panics. But Sister Helena intervenes with her pendant, driving the spirits back. Dr. Vale and Sister Helena lure Madeline into the attic. Candles, protective symbols, and chanting surround her. "You can't take me," ghost screaming. Emily, summoned by Sister Helena, repeats her mother's name to calm Madeline, connecting to the part of her soul still human. Madeline, it's time to rest. You don't have to hurt anymore. The ghost shrieks, convulses, then suddenly falls silent, hovering briefly before dissipating into mist. The attic is still. The storm outside breaks into light rain. The mansion is quiet. Broken furniture remains, but the oppressive darkness is gone. Jason and Emily sit, exhausted but alive. It's over. She's gone. For now. Spirits like her leave traces. Respect the house. Don't return alone, Sister Helena. Madeline Thorne's story is a warning. Not all spirits want revenge. Some just want closure. The team leaves, the mansion looming quietly in the early morning fog. The camera lingers on a corner of the attic. Faint black smoke curls, hinting she may not be completely gone. Jason and Emily walk away, holding hands. Birds chirp. Life seems to return to normal, but a faint wind carries a whisper. "I'll be waiting," ghost whispering. Cut to black. The credits roll, leaving a lingering sense of unease.